Welcome back to the podcast called Tell the World, and I'm your host. I hope you guys are doing good out there. You may hear a little sound here. I'm kind of moving my headset around. And this episode, we'll be doing it without the intro music. Music is kind of acting crazy, so let's roll with this punch. This episode today would be called Just Breathe. Just Breathe. The power of taking time out. I'll say it again. Just breathe. The power of taking time out. And today we're not rushing. Today we're not proving. Today we're not reacting. Today we're just breathing. Pause. I'll say it again. Today we're not rushing. Today we're not proving. Today we're not reacting. Today we're just breathing. Let me ask you guys something. This is just something I'm asking. When was the last time? When was the last time you took a little time out? Not to scroll, right? Right? Not to scroll, not to talk, not to explain yourself, right? But to just breathe. Just breathe. I know a lot of times, we forget about breathing, but you remember when you were a kid, when you used to hear yourself breathing, because you've been running and playing with your friends. The excitement of life where you're just breathing of just having fun. We live in a world that rewards and movements go harder than talk louder. Post more, work longer, respond first faster. That's how jobs be. We go working harder, talk louder, post more, work longer hours, and we respond faster. But nobody teaches us how to pause in life, right? How to pause our lives, right? To take a moment out to breathe, right? Nobody tells us that clarity doesn't come from chaos. It comes from stillness in our lives, right? Sometimes the reason you feel overwhelmed isn't because life is heavy, right? Life isn't just heavy, it's because you haven't stopped long enough to reset your nervous system, right? Your nervous system. Breathing is not just survival. Breathing, right, is an alignment. And lately, guys, I've been doing a lot of working out, just keeping my heart healthy and, keeping that blood pumping throughout my system and stuff. So, I've really been putting a lot of time out into myself, into my health, right? That's the richest thing you got in the world, your health. If you get sick or if you get diagnosed with something that's real bad, the first thing you're going to be concerned about is like, am I going to die? You know, is this curable? See how life gets breathed back into you when something goes wrong and you get, kind of panicking or scared. Breathing is not just survival, it's an alignment, right? What happens when you stop, right? What happens when you step away, right? When you take time to yourself, your emotions settle, your pride softens, right? Your ego quiets down, your thoughts organize themselves when you're breathing, right? I'm going to keep repeating some of these things. What happens when you step away? When you take time to yourself, your emotions settle, your pride softens, your ego quiets down, right? Your thoughts organize themselves. Now you're taking a little time out for yourself to gather yourself. You ever notice how everything feels urgent until you step away? When you're around the urgent moment, you get excited, you get jumpy, you get a little bit fearful. All this stuff is mixed in. You're not sure, you're not ready. Definitely not ready. That's where the excitement comes in. I'm not ready. Then suddenly it's not that serious. That arguments, not that serious. The fear, that not the fear of not feeling powerful. when you get away from all this stuff. You know, you step away from all this. You don't feel the seriousness, the arguments, the not that serious, the fear, the not powerful, the decisions, not that, not all that confusing. Because you breathe deeply, you shift from reacting to responding. I always say, like, you get to yourself. If you find time to get a little vacation, you get away from all the things that have you cranked up every day. Every time daylight comes, it is punching the clock because you go back into the real world, reacting to these daily things, daily tasks that we do every day. And sometimes it pushes us, it cages us in. Every day we get the same response out of our nervous system, how we're reacting, right? Because when you breathe deeply, you shift from reacting to responding, right? Because you're not around that no more. So you're going to breathe different, right? Everything's shifting, right? You're shifting from reacting to responding to those things that you're around. And that's powerful about yourself because you do supposed to reset yourself and take a little time out for yourself to breathe, to think, right? And not do the daily tasks that we do every day. Why is solitude necessary? Well, for me, and I'm saying this for everybody out there. I hope you listen. Sometimes you need to get yourself. Sometimes you need to get to yourself. Not because you're mad, not because you're broken, because you need clarity. Sometimes when I'm going through it, I have to get to myself. Why? Because if I don't gather myself, I'm going to be all over the place. I'm not going to be settled in my thoughts. I'm going to make terrible mistakes. Things are going to happen, and I'm just not going to be happy. You ever felt that way? It just feels like everything's crashing down. Too many voices, or one voice in your head is one too many voices in your thoughts. Oh, God. Crazy, right? There's a difference between isolation, right? There's a difference between isolation and international solitude. Isolation is running from life, right? You're running from life, and that may not be good. Solitude, right? Solitude is recalibrating for life, right? Because you're finding a place, you're planning, right? You're planning to have peace of mind, quiet space where you're in control. Isolation is running from life, and you don't want to run from life to be isolated because you're still going through it with yourself. Going through it. The strongest people I know, right? The strongest people I know, they know how to disappear for a moment and come back sharper. You don't need to explain yourself, right? You don't need to explain your pause to anyone. You don't have to explain yourself. Sometimes your mind needs silence like your body needs water. Remember, when you're silent and you're in solitude and peace, you're giving your mind a rest, you're giving your soul peace, and you're giving yourself time to heal from all of these things. So you can come back sharper thinking, right? Coming back sharper thinking. Breathe that clarity into your life, right? And try these things. Close your eyes. Inhale for 4 seconds and hold it. And exhale slowly. Sounds easy, right? It's not. It's just you find the right place to do this in. I could repeat this over and over again, and I will. Close your eyes. Inhale for 4 seconds and hold it. Exhale slowly and do that 3 times. Notice what happens. Your heart slows down. Your shoulders relax. Your thoughts stop racing. That's clarity entering your system. And even if you haven't done it in a while or you never tried it, try it and keep trying until it works. Keep trying it. You'll feel clarity into your system. You don't have to fix the whole life in one day. You don't have to fix your whole life in one day. Sometimes the most productive things you can do is just take a little time out for yourself and breathe. I have a closing message, and I'll leave this out there. Hey, look, share it with someone. Also, if you're new, subscribe. Glad you're here. And I'll close it with this message here. If you feel overwhelmed, if you feel misunderstood, if you feel like everything is loud, take a little time out. Get to yourself, not to escape the world. Sometimes. We're human, okay? Sometimes we do need to use the word. I need to escape. But hear yourself, right? Hear yourself. Because clarity isn't out there somewhere, right? It's already inside you, right? You just have to breathe long enough to find it. That concludes Tell the World, the podcast. I enjoy you guys, and you heard it first.